Hi, everybody. Best way to put this is in my ER, my emotional response. I'm going to start with something I thought about. Tiananmen Square, 1955. My favorite quote. So, guy has a sign up protesting, just on his own. Okay, just is out there with a sign. Someone comes up to him. He says, "Hey, what are you doing? You can't change. You can't change the world." The guy turns back to him and says, "I'm not trying to change the world. I'm showing the world it can't change me." Uh, well, today I'm going to talk about, or tonight, this evening, whatever. I'm going to talk about something that gave me a very big emotional response, and that was more recently. So I'm going to talk about something entertainment, video game wise. Deus Ex Mankind Divided. The neutral voice. It's very important nowadays. I think it's more important than most people want to say, or will say in general. Because I think the thing that makes it very hard to know or accept, because people try to find a backup for themselves. When I think about it growing up, uh, and seeing it now over the years, I ruminate on it. That it's funny how the response to changing and not being like violent kids or something else, or just being like that, is a problem. It's going to make us not be able to defend ourselves, which I think there's a difference between protecting and projecting. Um, Big difference. I'm not a war person. It doesn't mean I'm a peace person. There's a big. I don't believe in either, actually. I think that black and white display is too easy to say. And that's why things continue to be the same, because that's the naivete in humans, whether you're 80 years old or 5 years old. The mentality is it has to be that way. There can't be anything besides those strict conditions. When I was playing Deus Ex Mankind Divided, I never saw the neutral person attacked, really. Besides his own, choices, the character's own choices in that story were really the only time where he was even close to being attacked for it. But that changed. When I think about how generations in general and how emotions, feelings, sensitivities have a certain idea towards anybody, I researched a ton of different music, for example, from around the world, and I found so many different ways people found their interest that way. Whether it be they've had a lot of experiences in one direction, let's say they were more sexually active kind of people, or on the other end of it, where they had marriages, where they had many marriages that fell through. There's a dynamic to think everybody has to experience this. Deus Ex Mankind Divided is the exact opposite to that superiority complex, that people have to experience things the same way. That's what I like about the neutral story of Adam Jensen. Because I think that what it shows is a total dynamic of the atmosphere versus the human. That's why I brought up the quote in Tiananmen Square so many years ago, because it really showed the connection to that. That idea that we can't change for the rest of the world, but we're not trying to change the rest of the world either. So if we can't change the world, why should we change ourselves for the world? And yeah, I'm contrary to the public opinion, the public norm. Uh, and no matter what, that suffices to stay. That's suffice, and it's going to stay. Uh, there's going to be failures in it, because if I'm the only voice speaking for myself, you damn right there's going to be failures in it, and it's going to be a lot harder because no one else is going to give me that support to just be myself. The only person that will is me. Let me talk to you about what I wrote down. This is the part I wrote down about Mankind Divided. Talk about the augmented and humans, how they are separated, how the system in power uses them, and how the rebellion and the opposition is just as part of the same establishment. Violence begets violence. And that are using technology to help their body survive are being separated and discriminated against versus humans that are not that way, that don't have augmentations. And see, right there, even in my voice and what I just said, it already is that answer of we're not the same. Separate. I think what I saw in Mankind Divided was a connection to every single part. And you decide whether or not each part is for you, which is what I think anybody should do growing up as a child. We're not stupid. We can connect to things and not connect to things. And it's very simple to. I learned most from the fact of what I don't want to be. What I don't want to be like. Because I listened, I paid attention, and I said to myself, do I want that? No. Do I want it that way? No. Do I want this? Yes. And I made my decisions. And am I sticking through to them? You're damn right I am. So to me, Deus Ex Mankind Divided really showed that division within humans, but it also showed a connection to someone who doesn't feel that way toward anything. That there are connections that won't just tell you, oh, you're wrong. Oh, that won't get you anything. I think my emotional response to this was, wow, it doesn't need to be rock bottom. It doesn't need to be, you're going to fall off. I mean, I'm going to fall off, but I'm not going to fall down. There's a difference, I'll fall off from you, and I think there's this thing where people don't want to discuss certain parts and they'll always fall back to the old conversation. So it's like, I couldn't never say my part that I needed to say, or maybe I already did, but it's separated from it. It's like, oh, that didn't exist. Let's start from the other part we were already talking about. Because the part that I did bring up isn't understood. I know I'm getting off topic here, but overall, Deus Ex Mankind Divided to me really spoke on so many different things that are happening in society that I don't feel are necessary, that I feel are part of the system and the establishment in general. And I think I talked about this during my Detroit Become Human playthrough so far, that rebellion isn't rebellion anymore. If you're part of the popular norm, the popular opinion, how is that rebellion anymore? How does that even mean anything about rebellion? It doesn't. It's the same story you're feeding into. And I think that's really the difference, is that we're insatiable creatures. We're humans, all right. But we all have different answers for ourselves. We all have different wants and desires in ourselves, whether or not we all have the same dynamic of features that we could use with each other. Doesn't mean we want to do the same things. And it also comes with the fact that we come up with different answers when we see different things, when we hear different things, when we find out different things. And we come up with our own solutions or understandings of it and say, you know what? I may want it that way, or I don't want it that way. So to me, Mankind Divided really showed me that neutral audience is there. It's hard to find, because if there's only one person doing it, the rest of the people are not going to copy. It's basically listening and paying attention and taking your own choices from there. So thank you, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, for bringing that voice out. Bye.